Welcome to Creature Guide Live Daily News. Today we're going to be going over a wide range of different species of Ice Age megafauna. So going over different species of saber-tooths, mammoths, as well as even marsupials from Ice Age Australia. We are streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. And do feel free to put in any comments about prehistoric or current animals in the chat, as well as specifically the Ice Age megafauna. Oh, okay. Let's see. I guess let's start off with maybe carnivore like the Homotherium serum. So the species of saber-toothed cat, a bit more distantly related to the Smilodon. Hmm? What? Oh.
Okay, this guy's a little blurry.
Yeah, so this animal is very different from, first of all, tigers of today, considering there tends to be, or it's been pushed for several decades, possibly for over a century and a half when it comes to the saber-tooth tiger, which did not exist. Tigers belong to specifically Felidae,
Wait a minute,
whereas
repeat that. What were you saying?
that the saber-tooth tiger basically does not exist. So you have it where basically, the tiger belongs to the genus Panthera. I mean, technically, you have it where the saber-toothed cats and the tigers, lions, they all belong to Felidae. But specifically, when it comes to the larger subfamily of cats, you have the Machaerodontidae or the Machaerodontids, which have been around since the Miocene epoch. So pushing well over 20 million years. And these animals, when it comes to tigers and lions, are very distantly related. Also, Homotherium belongs to, or Homotherium serum belongs to the genus Homotherium. So this animal first evolved during the very end, well, actually a bit earlier. I'm thinking of another carnivore. Well over a million years ago into the Pleistocene epoch. And it roamed different parts of Asia, different areas over in Europe, as well as North America. So, this animal would have likely have been hunting different species of rhino over on the Mammoth Steppe, and even going after different species of horses. The wide range of large types of deer, like the different species of moose, such as Cervalsis scotti, which inhabited the region, or Cervalsis latrophons. So these are two different species of moose, very closely related to the moose Alcis alcis of today, but also going after younger woolly mammoth individuals or Mammothus primigenus. Now, it definitely was probably very unlikely for a Homotherium to go after a fully grown bull woolly mammoth. Now, I might have mentioned a little way back that the woolly mammoth only reached around 5 to 6 tons. That would be maybe a bit excessive for a female. Bull woolly mammoths were actually quite heavy for their overall height, considering they were not much more than maybe 10 to 11 feet in height, or pushing 3 to 3.2 meters.
This is like a weird lion.
This could be a Homotherium. I mean, it does have a very Homotherium-like build when it comes to its skull. But my question is, where are the canines on the upper jaw? Besides that, I mean, it's a good-looking model. Homotherium, compared to a wide range of other lineages of Megarodontid saber-toothed cats, is a very distinct build. It's almost like just more built for simply running and chasing down its prey to an extent, but also having strong enough forelimbs to handle much larger prey items. It's not that animals like necessarily cheetahs today that are mainly meant for just running down its prey, but they can still take down, per se, younger wildebeest calves or extremely large Thomson's gazelle, which can weigh well over 200 pounds or pushing over 90 kilograms.
John Wang says hi.
Well, hello, fellow Archosaur. I know we're not talking about different species of dinosaurs today, unless you'd like a mammal. So, Hello, mastodon. How are the leaves? Because you feed on leaves. Anyway, besides that, also do put in the chats like what do you find quite fascinating about different species of saber tooths. It can be like Homotherium, Smilodon, as well as the Ice Age megafauna in general. I will say when it comes to like animals such as Smilodon or the other more renowned genus of saber tooths during this time, they are much more heavily built compared to their body size than when looking at Homotherium. Considering this animal just seems to be much leaner in overall physique and also a bit taller as well. Homotherium also might have been hunting like younger woolly rhino calves at this time, like the Lysotherium or even Lasmotherium at certain points and the Coelodonte. In fact, let's bring up one of those other rhinos real quick. The Lysotherium. So Lysotherium. I do not know whether or not specifically when it comes to. Oh, you not pop up? Oh. Okay, I must be mistaking the genus for something else.
Wait, is it
It's not a Lasmotherium.
no, is it a sloth?
No, did it bring up a ground sloth? I guess I don't know. Maybe pull up the ground sloth, see what he looks like.
It's a Glossotherium.
Let's say, oh, that individual. Um, Yeah, that wasn't what I was thinking of. But this is a more like medium-sized species of ground sloth from prehistoric or Ice Age South America. Likely did not coexist with Homotherium. Homotherium's range was much further north and didn't really venture into South America. Now, you do have it where the different species of Smilodon existed within this continent. But Glossotherium was probably pushing somewhere around well, probably not 400. I'd say maybe 800 to 1,400 pounds, or somewhere between 360 kilograms to maybe pushing somewhere around probably 700 to 750 kilograms and was specifically an herbivore. So this animal was simply feeding on different species of leaves. It probably wasn't a grazer. In many cases, it seems that sloths, looking at their overall dental build or the structure of their teeth, they seem to be focusing on different species of leaves back in prehistoric South America. And this would have consisted of most of the countries within the continent, and also including areas like Costa Rica, Panama, Brazil. I believe we have even found certain ground sloth species over in like French Guiana, as well as Guyana, Venezuela, Peru, as well as different preservations of mastodons in these regions too. But these animals were also incredibly slow. They didn't really have the need to run, but they also just simply weren't capable of it. Also, considering they would have walked on the sides of their toes and ankles, just like today's tree sloths do. And yes, they do belong to the same family of mammals that today's tree sloths that inhabit different parts of northern and central South America. So these animals have been around for tens of millions of years, like since the Oligocene. I mean, well over 26 million years ago. And there is evidence for certain species of ground sloths, but really seems to be the larger ones like Megatherium, maybe even possibly a Scelidotherium, or I mean, I might be thinking of Lestodon, scavenging on certain other animals. So, so it looks like somebody kind of blended today's lions with a Homotherium sort of build. Which is fine. You probably had it where certain Homotherium individuals were wandering certain parts of northern Africa. And back when northern Africa was very lush and was more of like the savanna that you see in different parts of Tanzania and Kenya today. So, like the Serengeti region.
I like
Um,
this.
oh, yeah. There were also earlier relatives Yeah, that's actually a really good, representation of the Homotherium. I think it's also an older depiction, but, I mean, yeah, overall, they look really good. This animal is definitely much, more equipped for running. I mean, when you look at animals like Smilodon, they have very short hind limbs compared to their body size. This is the complete opposite when it comes to this creature. Very long hind limbs compared to most other lineages of cat in general. So likely there weren't many herbivores that could simply outrun this creature. I do wonder if this was one of those rare cats that possibly had a decent amount of stamina. And usually, like even with today's big cats, so even animals like cheetahs, leopards, lions, as long as they're going at a slow or running after their prey at a slow enough speed, they can actually maintain a certain distance. It's when they're running at like over 35 to 40 miles per hour or pushing maybe somewhere around 60 to 70 kilometers per hour, they start having trouble. Well,
He
they can only last so long.
he needs his coffee.
Yeah, he does. It looks like he's been having a tough time maybe during the summer because I would assume, like today and what you see in different colder climates, especially during the winter, in many cases, certain carnivores might have an easier time, especially when it comes to just the snow slowing the herbivores down. However, during this time period, you had it where the herbivores were much better equipped for fending off different species of predators. Not that bison are necessarily easy for animals like gray wolves to take on, but you had it where, oh yeah, there were much larger species of bison during this time too.
What do you think about
And
this?
this isn't bad. It's probably showing not a necessarily a
I feel like I'm
European
looking at a
bison.
big puma.
Oh, I guess when you're looking at the overall mixture of the build, yeah, it does have a somewhat cougar sort of a complexion to it. But yeah, you can definitely see the Homotherium sort of build. I'm trying to think of what else. It's sort of like mixed with a lion and a cougar to an extent, especially the face looking like a very enhanced cougar skull.
What is wrong with this guy?
Um, it's almost like somebody took like a lion from taxidermy or just a stuffed lion and then tried to somewhat change it into a Homotherium. Um, if they were trying to freak people out, they did a fantastic job.
Right? And I swear those look like tigers.
Yeah, it's a bit of an older depiction. I guess you could say somewhat with the stripes on the overall painting, or just on the specific individuals. But Homotherium is pretty distinct when at least looking at the skeletal structure compared to a tiger. Tigers don't have the tall, sort of lean type of. I mean, they do have a bit of a lean sort of a physique to them, but it seemed to be much more exaggerated when it came to at least Homotherium serum. Also, Homotherium serum is probably pushing somewhere around 500 pounds or a little over 240 kilograms. Could possibly have become slightly larger. Let's see what else. Now, it is interesting that they're depicting this animal in a cave. I don't know. It's certainly possible if we have found Homotherium fossils deposited in caves. I think also when it comes to the Ice Age or the Pleistocene epoch in general, or in some cases, if you're talking about like the later 1.8 million years of the epoch, known as the Quaternary, I think there's a number of people that tend to depict these animals as living in caves to a certain extent. There is evidence for certain species, like different types of ground sloths, we have found the bones of in caves. Certain, like of the larger crocuta, cave hyena, we have found evidence of these animals existing in caves. Also, there have been instances where the bones were found somewhere between a mile, 1 to 2 miles within the cave. So, that's quite insane. Like how or why? In
Wait,
fact, you
wait,
can
they
put it.
found him 1 to 2 miles inside?
I believe so.
How
Um,
deep is that cave?
yeah, I don't know. We're somewhere between like, what, maybe. 1.5 to 3 kilometers. I'm just guessing,
Oh,
but
that's what you're saying, how deep they found it.
yeah.
The how question is how deep does it go?
Well, I think also the bigger question is why on earth would something like even the cave hyenas? I think there have been instances of cave bear skeletons being found deep within the cave as well, and possibly cave lions too, or the Eurasian cave lion.
Wait, is this a like a find?
Oh yeah, this was discovered, I believe, earlier last year over in Siberia or the Yukon, so Canada or like central Russia. And it was a preserved, like a what was it? Just a few weeks old of a cave lion cub, and I wonder if there were 2. But, yeah, this is very exquisitely well preserved. And also, due to further analysis of the neck build of cave lions, there doesn't seem to be any evidence for these animals growing a mane or having or to be able to in general. Same thing for the American lion or Panthera atrox, whereas
I just thought he was funny.
yeah, what on earth is this supposed to be? Is this supposed to be a homotherium?
So Homotherium serum.
Wow. I mean, also when you look at homotherium, he does have much smaller upper canines compared to different, even earlier species of saber tooths like Myceritus, which was maybe reaching somewhere around 100 to 130 pounds, or not much more than 40 to maybe around 60 kilograms. But that animal also inhabited the Pliocene like around 3 million years ago. So it evolved before animals like Smilodon, which are the descendants of that species. So, homotherium. Oh, yeah, I think that's just a big question when it came to the caves. I mean, you could even put in the chat why you think these animals would have inhabited so deep into like a completely barren part of the landscape. I mean, you could possibly, or I guess you could say in theory, when it comes to like the cave bears, they just wanted to hibernate in, overall peace to an extent, but I wouldn't think you would have to um venture that far into the cave, but you would still have issues with animals like cave hyenas or even Eurasian cave lions. You've even had like the Eurasian jaguars and Eurasian cougars at the time that might want to go after like specifically cubs or even weak older bears
Wait, is this
or injured individuals, but that's still quite a risk.
wait. I thought they didn't have this.
There doesn't seem to be any evidence of like mammoths or mastodons using caves, but they possibly might have gone after certain caves, maybe to harvest excess salt or sodium, which is what elephants will do today over in Africa. I don't know where they might do it in certain areas of Asia, however. Yeah, I mean,
I thought
this
they
is,
didn't have that.
you mean that little gum area
Yeah.
to, yeah, place their canine? No, they did. Actually, that's a more recent sort of a depiction. Whoa. Oh, okay. The skulls from 1990, is this, or is that just based off of maybe okay, maybe the discovery occurred in 1989 or 1990? So it says SVP meeting. I don't know, this looks like a much more recent depiction of a homotherium. That's a
Somebody draw
very
this while sitting in a meeting?
yeah, maybe. That's a very, thorough complexion of the fur. I think that looks really good. And then, like, even the eye sockets, yeah, wow. And even, like, the bottom individual looks like a dog on the right over here, though. But, um,
That's funny.
you did have, like, gray wolves exist with Homotherium at certain points, but, um, yeah, they definitely were quite well, gray wolves might have avoided Homotherium.
Wait a minute.
Also, somewhat distinct front incisors compared to, like, Smilodon fatalis. I think Smilodon fatalis had somewhat shorter front canines. Not canines, incisors. Oh, hmm, that is interesting. Unless it's comparing it with another, species of cat, which I don't think it is. For some reason, the canine looks huge over here and not so much with the skin and muscle attached. well, the rest of the muscle.
Yeah, his face seems to shrink.
It's interesting. He's a bit like a bulldog or a Great Dane sort of a look here. And it reminds you of Scooby Doo to an extent. Um,
Where did they
oh,
get and
okay. So this is probably taking place in some part of Eurasia, but it could even be some part of Africa where they would have hunted not even just certain species of mammoths, but possibly certain younger individuals of Paleoxodon antiquus. And there were other different species of Paleoxodon as well, but virtually the large tusked species of elephant. Yeah, I mean, that is a good reconstruction, just giving that sort of a lion type of a complexion. It might have been a more common sort of a just overall look when it comes to reconstructing Eurasian cave lions or even possibly American lions, because we have found Eurasian cave lions in caves. It doesn't seem to be so for American lions, but we have found them in the tar pits of Los Angeles.
okay, this just says Homotherium.
Yeah, I don't remember if this was supposed to be from prehistoric planets like Ice Age or our planet, possibly. Yeah, it's not a bad reconstruction of Homotherium, but I think the canines might be a little too thin compared to like the canines that we have preserved on their skulls. I think they would be a bit wider. Um
Well, and there's I don't see the lip area for the teeth. Is that right here?
Yeah, it's like oh, yeah, you mean, like, further
Your
down
gums.
yeah, the jaw I do find that a bit odd. They just have it where it's specifically like that lip structure, which that type of a model has been around for a long time, or that type of a reconstruction. And I think the front incisors are a bit short. I mean, maybe I'm just thinking of the root when looking at the actual skull. Um, hmm. I'd also think they could possibly open their mouth to a much greater extent because they have to be able to get their canines around their prey source. But it is still a bit of a debate as to how, like, specifically saber-tooths were biting their prey, considering they had to be quite gentle with their canines.
He came up as Homotherium serum.
That's odd. This animal is from a time, I believe, even before the dinosaurs. Which I don't think I'm mistaking this for like a tuatara sort of a lizard. I think this goes much further back. Maybe it's in the Permian. I don't know what lineage of reptiles supposedly, but it could be the late Carboniferous period. But that reptile could have existed somewhere between 305 to maybe 255 million years ago. I don't believe it existed during the Mesozoic era or during the time of the dinosaurs, and definitely not the Cenozoic era, which is when the Ice Age was occurring.
Those are some scary teeth.
Yeah, they definitely enlarged them like immensely towards the front, especially with those incisors. The rest of the Homotherium is really not bad. I do like how they gave it very defined just a really defined build overall. So I think it looks really good, and they're also, portraying it in that ambush sort of a stalking motion, but, likely could have ran for decent period of time. Now, it probably didn't have to be very fast considering many of the species that it preyed on weren't too quick, unless it's going after maybe larger species of deer or possibly even the different species of longhorned bison within different parts of Eurasia. But we do find Homotherium also over in the state of Alaska and the Yukon. Possibly northern British Columbia, but I don't know of any. Well, okay, there is Homotherium. You can go much further south into the central United States when it comes to another species of Homotherium, and they exist within the region. But when it comes to this specific species, it roamed for the most part in different parts of Afro Eurasia. Okay. Well, I guess let's go over to um, the Sardinian otter.
Wait, is that it?
Yep, that's him. So, this is an immense species of otter that used to inhabit the island of Sardinia during the Pleistocene or the Ice Age, well over 300,000 years ago. And this otter could reach somewhere between 2 to 300 pounds, or possibly larger in some cases, or pushing well over 150 kilograms. And it's very likely that it might have hunted different species of fish within, well, larger fish within the area, including the sharks, but also occasionally even preying on mammals on land. I don't know what species of primate this could be.
He's got
Mentioning,
his arm.
yeah, it's mentioning dwarf macaques. I mean, it is interesting when it comes to this island. It's almost like what we see in the Hatzeg ecosystem from the late Cretaceous period or the end of the age of the dinosaurs over in Romania and Hungary, where on the island we have very small species of dinosaurs for the most part. Recently, I believe it was back in 2025, we found an immense species of sauropod that could reach around, I believe it was pushing 11 tons, which is immense for any other species of dinosaur within the ecosystem. And the odd thing before that, really the largest dinosaur was somewhere around 2,000 pounds or pushing somewhere around 950 kilograms. Then you had the larger species of like as darked pterosaurs preying on the different species of dinosaur within the area. And it seems to be a similar case, putting aside like the sauropod, with the different species of mammal on the island of Sardinia at this point in the Ice Age. And you had it where there were also there was a smaller species of proboscidean or elephant on the island. In fact, it might have been a smaller species of paleoxodon within the island of Sardinia.
He's got a shark.
Yeah, I do wonder if we have found a wide variety of different species of shark from the Ice Age of Sardinia, and that's why there are constant depictions of otters hunting them. But it does seem to be that the otter was practically the top predator within the area. There might have been a prehistoric fox or jackal that inhabited the region, but it wasn't much of a threat to at least the elephant within the region, but possibly like the different species of dwarf deer they might have hunted, and the same thing for the otter going after them as well. Um, what's the other thing? Oh, also, due to it being on the island of Sardinia, it's quite likely that despite it being the Ice Age, it was quite a mild climate for um, even this part of Europe. So, food was probably abundant to an extent. I mean, as long as there really wasn't like a massive drought
Okay,
for a
this
decent
depiction is
portion of the year.
weird.
Oh, yeah, there's also, I believe, a certain species of gazelle that was found on the island as well. So it's very possible for the otters to have hunted these herbivores. They didn't really have any other competition on the island. There doesn't seem to be really any evidence of other mainland different species of carnivores coming in and out competing it. Um, that's a in quote giant otter from South America,
Oh,
different areas of Brazil or Colombia. They're also not even the largest species of otters today. The South American giant otter can reach somewhere around 80 to possibly 100 pounds or pushing somewhere around 35 to 45 kilograms. But really, that title belongs to the Alaskan sea otter of today, which can reach somewhere around 130 to 150 pounds or pushing somewhere around maybe 60 to 70 kilograms. Yet, giant otters will go after like different species of fish, mussels, clams, oysters. It would have also been a similar case when it came to different species of mollusks, which is what what's a large branch of animals in which mussels, clams, and oysters belong to, as well as different species of snails. But the Sardinian otter might have hunted as well, um, at least when it wasn't going after different species of fish. So, or This one of the prehistoric otters?
It says 10-foot otter versus scimitar cat, tooth cat.
Scimitar tooth cat. Oh, um, is it referencing Homotherium in this case? Because that's usually used for him.
I thought it was a zebra.
Um, well, yeah, I mean, I think that is supposed to be possibly like some sort of prehistoric horse they took down. But roaming in a pack, though, that's a bit of a new one. Oh, I think it's
This
supposed
says
to.
land-dwelling otters. The
Yeah,
wolf.
it's. Oh, I definitely might have to check up on him. Because practically most species of otters today tend to be quite social. Pacific sea otters are a bit more solitary, but when you look at like what is it, Southeast Asian or South Asian otters, as well as American river otters, Eurasian otters, and giant otters,
It says any droidon.
that's the name of like the genus. Okay. I guess I'm not too familiar with him. Of course, you have to research this individual because he also seems to have extremely long bottom canines as well. Um, yeah, okay, so this is a big mystery. I'm not sure if the saber-tooths would want to have to fight against a um, clan of these mustelids, which is the family of animals in which otters belong to. So the giant otters in general, there were a handful of different species that could reach well over 200 pounds or pushing over 90 kilograms.
Says it's an African and South Asian that lived in the late Miocene
Um,
and early Pliocene.
or a scimitar tooth cat. Okay, maybe I'm confusing it with the Barbarophilids or the Nimravids. So basically, what Diego is over in Ice Age. Um,
Using what? I was talking about the otters.
well, the cat that supposedly they're facing off.
Oh,
Um, okay, so this is much earlier in time, so it could be anywhere between like 3 to possibly 15 million years ago into the Miocene epoch. So these are not Ice Age otters. Possibly the Sardinian otter is probably a descendant of those individuals. Oh yeah, there also is a species of tapir that has been located on the island of Sardinia during the Ice Age too.
wait, they're that old?
Tapirs? Oh, they go back much further, but they definitely had a much larger home range compared to today's, at least South Asian tapirs that you find over in Malaysia, as well as over in Indonesia. Now, I think the question is like how the Indonesian or the South Asian tapir became separated from the South American tapir. Considering they're very closely related. Okay. I guess let's pull up the Pacific mastodon. By the way, we'll give everyone a minute for those that want to put in any comments about prehistoric to current animals or any questions about the megafauna from the Ice Age.
Oh, this is good. Mm. Okay, some of these I'm not sure about what they are because it's not being specific. I just like them.
Okay, so here we have the Pacific. Well, this isn't necessarily the Pacific mastodon. This would be the American mastodon. So,
Akita
this,
Beer asked if you're gonna be talking about wolves.
yes, we will reach wolves from the Pleistocene. Also, as well, I mean, I can actually mention them right now. You would have had genre like the Scion coexisting with American mastodons back in Pleistocene, um, Indiana. So this took place somewhere around like over 50,000 years ago. And this is based off of a specimen, I think called like the um, Borsch mammoth or Borsch mastodon. Um, so basically, it was back in 1998 that the skull of an American mastodon that seems to be around 34 years in age was found with the massive severed injury, like in around, I think, the possibly eye socket region. Um, I'm just trying to think where because the animal died immediately on impact in a fight. But when it comes to American mastodons, these animals were somewhere around 8 feet in height. They were pushing maybe 2.3 meters and probably weighed upwards of 9 to 11 tons. So they were one of the largest species of herbivores to inhabit Ice Age North America. They didn't really venture into Eurasia for the most part, though we do have evidence for American mastodons inhabiting the Yukon and Alaska, possibly during warmer periods. Let's see. Oh, well, this is an odd reconstruction of a mastodon, but this is also referencing the Pacific mastodon, which does have a slightly different build compared to the American mastodon. So it's very possible that the American mastodon has a bit more of like a somewhat even sort of a um, build when it comes to its overall height, because you have it where an animals like the different species of mammoths or even the straight tusked elephants, they tend to have a bit of a decline as you traverse along the body. Okay, so when it comes to also the American mastodon, we have found tusks well over 7 feet in length. They're pushing somewhere around 2.3 meters. And probably, when it comes to these animals, they're just feeding on different species of leaves. They're not really going after different species of grasses. Um, Probably not flowers in many cases, considering when it comes to their overall dental structure, it's really only designed for chewing on different species of leaves. Possibly, depending on where they are. I mean, you have it in different types of conifer forests over in the western United States, which is where specifically the Pacific Macedon would have roamed, considering it's really only endemic to different parts of Oregon, Washington State,
Okay,
California.
I'm not sure what some of these are because all it says is mastodon.
This could possibly depict a Pacific Macedon, maybe a bit further north. I mean, just depicting the mountain ranges. I mean, it also could be like some area of like the Cascades of Washington State. This seems to be a much older depiction, maybe from Charles R. Knight. It's really not bad. I mean, if this is coming in from like the 1930s or 40s or 50s, um, like of reconstructions of mastodons. Yeah, this one is a bit of a mystery. I mean, this is definitely from Charles R. Knight, but where this is supposed to occur, you had it where
How do
mastodons
you
were
know that?
practiced. Huh?
How do you know that?
It says it up top, Knight mastodon. At least that's what I'm assuming.
Oh, okay.
And
Didn't read it.
I think I've also seen his name adjacent to this specific painting before. But, we have found mastodons virtually all over the United States, and they would venture into different parts of Mexico as well as South America. This one seems to have a bit more of like a mammoth sort of a, just a body structure. I mean, it's a bit more slanted, but I think that's also with what we saw in one of the earlier depictions of the American mastodon, not the American mastodon, the Pacific mastodon, because they're two completely different species. It's also possible that we might have, from recent discoveries, two or three extra different species of mastodon outside of the American and Pacific mastodon. roaming different parts of Canada and possibly the eastern United States. So, with at least the eastern mastodon that I'm thinking of. Oh, this is definitely an interesting individual. When it comes to the tusks of mastodons in general, at least compared to animals like even the woolly mammoth, they tend to be just a bit straighter when it comes to their overall shape. Woolly mammoths specifically can have somewhat more curved tusks. This doesn't seem to be the case with the Columbian mammoth, but it's is possible just simply considering it is a descendant of the woolly mammoth and the steppe mammoth hybridization, at least over in central North America, that it might have had somewhat just more curved tusks. But the mastodon, in many cases, was quite successful in different forested regions within the United States as well as Canada, and where it really didn't compete with many other herbivores in the region. So I also wonder if these animals would have been quite docile outside of the breeding season or the rut.
Okay, this claims I swear this is saying mastodon versus mammoth. They look
Mm,
identical to me.
no, this is based off of like that specific specimen from Indiana. So it seems that mastodons had extremely um, violent conflicts when it came to establishing breeding rights. It's also a bit of a mystery as to like how the must period would have occurred with the different species of mastodons, the mammoths, even the straight tusked elephants compared to today's elephants over in Africa and Asia.
What's a mammoth?
A mammoth is specifically the genus that was given to the mastodon, I believe, like back in either 1759 or 1799.
Okay, this is an American mastodon, but I like it. So
Oh, yeah. Wow. This is definitely a different reconstruction. It's probably taking place a lot further north, considering they're adding a Przewalski's horse, which didn't really dominate any southern regions. However, we did have different species of horse roaming the United States towards the end of the Pleistocene epoch, like right around 20,000 years ago. So, but it's also depicting a more of like a sort of like open, maybe mammoth steppe or tundra forest sort of landscape, which you wouldn't have. I mean, outside the mammoth steppe, actually, specifically the mammoth steppe, you would not have found really any herds of mastodons because there's not really anything for them to eat out there. They would starve. There would be a plentiful supply of food for different species of mammoths, considering that's what their teeth are designed to feed on is different species of grasses. But the mastodons must have access to different types of, especially oak forest. Probably not feeding on different species of spruce. There's not a lot of just overall nutrients that's going to benefit a mastodon from speed like
okay,
feeding on
these guys
spruce.
don't match.
Yeah.
What? Why do they remind me of a funny tapir?
I think I think this is a depiction of Mastodon, kind of like with what we've seen in certain recent depictions of giant ground sloths, where they're practically naked to an extent. Is what we're seeing here with these individuals, but it's showing a spruce forest in the background. Unless maybe it's supposed to be summer and they've simply shed a lot of their fur and they're going through possibly the rut. I mean, my guess when it comes to um,
What?
my guess when it comes to just the overall rut of like mastodons or mammoths, especially in the more northern areas, is that it possibly was seasonal. Since I would assume just the massive dips in not just the in temperature, but also the lower abundance of food in the region would have probably offset their hormones, which is also what we tend to see in especially over in Africa, but probably Asia too, especially like over in India. Not sure about Southeast Asia. Um, Bull elephants tend to have very large gaps in when they go into must, especially during the dry season.
Akita Bear asked, "Are mastodons and current elephants related?"
They're actually very distant cousins of each other. And when it comes to mammoths, like the woolly mammoth specifically, actually, let's bring up him. We'll just travel over to the mammoth. This is an interesting depiction of the two mastodons. I kind of wonder if this is like supposed to also depict a period of maybe where they're just playing with each other. So maybe it's supposed to be like in the spring, but it's a huge guess to when the rut would have taken place. I do assume during the wet season, or in this case, the summer, would be the more active time for um, like animals like mastodons and mammoths to become extremely aggressive, or at least go into must much more often. Okay, so the woolly mammoth and African elephants, like specifically, like Loxodonta africanus, so the bush elephant today, um, that genus happened to branch off from like the mammoths, the mastodons, around 6 million years ago. So this was towards the late Miocene epoch when that occurred. And you do have it where today's Asian elephants are very closely related to the woolly mammoth and also slightly more closely related to the mastodon than they are, or than like the African bush or the African forest elephants are. Now, why that occurred is quite a big mystery. Also, considering it's a bit odd, considering you had it where um, you had three other different species of mammoth roaming Africa at this point, like, especially the African mammoth. Do think like the Walking with Beasts depiction of the woolly mammoth or Mammothus primigenus. So, Mammothus being the genus of the woolly mammoth and primigenus being the species. I think this is a really good reconstruction. It's possible they might have been somewhat wider,
What's wrong with
but
these tusks?
they're possibly a little too curved when it comes to just their overall shape. But it certainly is possible you might have had certain individuals that just had very curved tusks. It is very likely that the top of their head would have had that iconic sort of fluff
They're like
of
this.
hair. Yeah, this is a really good depiction. It has that more like an even sort of a like an erectness and just overall turn when it comes to the shape of the tusks. Also just the overall fur accumulation, and then like the crusty snow on top if it's supposed to like be taking place during the winter.
This
I
guy
think that
looks like
was
they
really good.
defrosted him.
Yeah, it looks like a bit of like an animatronic
It looks
or
to me like one that they found and they defrosted it. And
yeah, is also true. Almost like they took somewhat a bit of the fur from one of the younger mammoth mummies that they discovered. Just based the fur off of that and put it onto this individual. This looks almost more of like a mastodon when looking at the overall structure. Also, when it comes to the tusks, the interesting thing is this type of a curvature, or I don't know, maybe a conjoinedness, has occurred on different elephant individuals today. Especially
what are you referencing?
like how the tusks are almost connecting with each other. It's actually happened on different Asian elephant individuals. Really, the males, females can have tusks. They're just going to be much smaller. Um, but yeah, also I think when it comes to Asian elephants, the longest tusks that we have found or have occurred on certain bulls, we're pushing somewhere around 7.5 to 8 feet in length, or probably around 2.3 meters. Now, when it comes to the different species of grasses, like especially what the different mammoths were feeding on, they were probably um very high in calories, or at least that is my guess. Well, I'm saying that
What they were
because
feeding on, they were very high in calories.
yeah, the grasses. Well, that's my guess because of simply the immense amount of fat that these animals were able to put on during the spring, summer, and early fall months. They were also feeding very likely into like the late fall, winter, and the early spring. There have been certain theories looking at the fat content of these animals and how their bodies seem to have been utilizing that storage. that could have possibly indicated that these animals may have somewhat um, ruminated or hibernated like bears to an extent, but it would have probably been in much shorter time intervals. So, let's see, what is another thing? Now, it is interesting. It's like it's depicting woolly mammoth in a somewhat warm area, like maybe some part of central or western Texas or some area of like maybe Peru or Mexico, which is kind of odd. I mean, you would probably see Colombian mammoths in at least like certain areas in Mexico or Texas, but not a woolly mammoth.
I can't believe Time Magazine used this.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I'm not sure how old this specific model is, but yeah, definitely do understand the overall trunk shape. I'd say the whole structure of this mammoth is a bit goofy. He looks like some sort of a character from Star Wars, but I
Oh, the
don't think.
Atlantic used this.
What on earth? What's going on with that sloth? Um, I, I, I don't know how to describe it. In fact, it looks like the mammoth or the mastodon is. Everybody is like stern or has just lost their mind in this depiction. Okay. Also, I haven't seen a mammoth with this large of ears. Also, it doesn't seem, for the most part, that woolly mammoths were really coexisting with ground sloths. There does seem to be evidence of ground sloths occurring much further north into like different parts of Canada and possibly even Alaska. So maybe in certain regions you possibly had it where they were coexisting, but it definitely was not often. Most of the different species of ground sloths were inhabiting the warm areas of different parts of the United States, as well as down into Mexico and South America. Also, you probably had it where mammoths were not living amongst, well, purposely living right against different glaciers, even though they would have traveled or migrated through different glacial corridors. So, I think this is also just giving it like a sort of polar bear type of a reference, in my opinion. And polar bears also don't really hang out, at least for very long, amongst glaciers because there's nothing really there for them to eat, and it's dangerous to be around. Okay, I think this is also one of another painting of Charles R. Knight. Also, what's interesting in many of the tusks, he would not add in like an extreme amount of curvature. But I think the mammoths, when it comes to just the overall accuracy, might be a little short in overall length. Also, when it comes to bull mammoths or bull woolly mammoths, these animals could reach over 9 tons. So, in some cases, it is somewhat underestimated of just how large they became. So, I think there have been just so many instances of comparing them to Asian elephants when in reality they were actually much bigger. Probably a decent percentage of that weight was also just simply fat. Considering you could have it where 30% of their body was just simply the fat they put on during the plentiful months. This is one of the more renowned or woolly mammoth calf specimens from Siberia. I believe we have also found a certain mummy over in Alaska. We definitely find many specimens just simply when it comes to full intact, at least dental structures of woolly mammoths over in Alaska, and a wide variety of tusks too. Also, different islands surrounding different areas of Russia and Alaska, possibly like even Svalbard, and certain Canadian Arctic islands. There are many instances of tusks within the region or within those different specific areas. It's
Is that a
also,
tree?
yeah, I think they just stuck a aspen or a birch there, but that's a very thin birch or aspen. Maybe it's supposed to reflect like the edge of the forest and the mammoth steppe. But besides that, these aren't bad woolly mammoth reconstructions. I wonder though if the tusks might be a bit wide, but it also just could be Maybe it's depicting these specific mammoth individuals obtaining a larger or yeah, a larger amount of nutrients, and they're just able to grow larger tusks. At least that's my theory. Oh,
What am I looking at?
yeah, I'm trying to figure out where the different trunks and the tusks are located. Hmm. Well, I'm guessing this is probably not going to occur unless there's just a major um, depletion in food supply, like per se during the winter. But even then, that's a lot of energy to put off for also a very low amount of nutrients. I mean, at this point, much of the vegetation under the snow is going to be just quite low in the nutrition that they require. And they're going to be really surviving off their fat off this point. Um, that seems more of like a mastodon. It's definitely not a bad reconstruction. I mean, it says
It
a
looks
woolly
sad.
mammoth. Um, yeah, I think it's supposed to be representing just like a bull on his own.
He got a funny haircut.
Yeah, that too. I mean, that's what I was wondering. I mean, that's more of like that's a very elite American mastodon or Pacific mastodon sort of a hairdo. But for a woolly mammoth, there's something wrong. It's very short. Oh, I think also there are many instances where people might assume that animals like the polar bears either didn't coexist with these animals or possibly just straight out avoided them. Well, the interesting thing is we do have evidence for polar bears to have coexisted with the woolly mammoths in different parts of Canada, Alaska, different areas of Europe, as well as a wide range of other megafauna. Probably weren't going after like woolly mammoths in many cases, or even different species of larger deer. Maybe they'll prey after, or they'll go after a calf. But I mean, even same thing for like the brown bears at this point, but they did exist within the region. Okay, so who next? I'm trying to think. There's that species of large wombat, starts with a Z, or the kangaroo. Yeah, it is interesting. Like, okay, so this would have been over in Australia, probably different areas of Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland, around 80,000 years ago. And back then, you actually had a wide variety of different species of tree kangaroos, large tree kangaroos, that virtually fed on different species of leaves like koalas and the smaller tree kangaroos do of today. But this is a species that could reach somewhere around 105 pounds or pushing probably around maybe 48 kilograms. So this was a massive species of macropod, like even especially for an arboreal species, meaning by arboreal is specifically hanging out in the canopy or the treetops.
Wait, is there a living species of this thing?
Well, when it comes to this specific genus, I don't believe so. I think they all went extinct somewhere around 40,000 years ago. So towards the last 30,000 years of Pleistocene.
It's just bringing up a bunch of tree kangaroos.
There were, a variety of other different species, and
No, I meant current.
oh, yeah, they might have already existed back in the Pleistocene, considering even areas like Papua New Guinea were only slightly different from today's climate. But, oh, no, 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 that's an Australian, Bennett's tree kangaroo. So this animal is much smaller compared to that other species of, tree-dwelling macropod. They all belong to the same lineage of marsupials being macropodidae.
Is this real?
That is a Mosh's tree kangaroo, I believe. So this is one of the species that is native to Papua New Guinea. They can push somewhere around 20 to 25 pounds or somewhere around 10 kilograms. And the Bennett's tree kangaroo, I believe, also reaches somewhere around 18 to 20 pounds or maybe around 8 kilograms. Both are specifically herbivores, so they're feeding on different species of leaves, though they can feed on different species of fruit as well. And I think it's just a bit of a mystery in general, not just to myself, when it comes to the feeding habits, especially of different species of tree kangaroo from Papua New Guinea. When it comes to like the Bennett tree kangaroo and I believe the Goodfellas tree kangaroo over in northeastern Australia or the Horn or a small area of northern Queensland, they're really just feeding on different species of leaves, and they don't have any competition with koalas in the area. There's also not many of them either. It's like maybe 1,500 to 2,000. So, let's see. Oh yeah, so these guys definitely had to. They didn't really have competition with the ground dwelling giant kangaroos like the Promnembodon, the Procoptodons that existed in Ice Age Australia. Those individuals were likely just feeding on different species of grasses, much like today's different species of ground dwelling kangaroo, like the eastern gray kangaroos and the red kangaroos. Now, there were different species of wallabies at this time as well. And they were also probably feeding on different species of shrubs, like today's wide variety of different species of wallabies native to Australia. So you did have the thylacine that existed at this point. In fact, it roamed all over Australia, or specifically like the Tasmanian tiger. It was not a tiger; it was its own species of marsupial. They also had to be careful about the marsupial lion, specifically Thylacoleo, which would probably have hunted tree kangaroos now and then. Um, let's see. Oh, okay, so this is a distant relative of the gray wolf. So this is also what is known as a dire wolf, but specifically this is Ainu Scion. And I believe we have found a couple different species of this animal, or it's possibly also another genus that I'm thinking of. But I know Scion is extremely common over in the La Brea tar pits in Los Angeles, California. We have found thousands of skulls of just simply different individual dire wolves within the area. So it's definitely evidence for them being a very successful predator within the region, along with, I believe, probably hundreds of different Smilodon fatalis or saber-toothed cat specimens and even certain short-faced bears or Arctodus simus species. Well, Arctodus simus individuals. So it seems to be within like different areas of California, probably Colorado, Texas, probably even into certain parts of the eastern United States. This was a very successful species of wolf. Probably reached some around 130 pounds, so around the size of some of the larger gray wolves of today, or pushing maybe 60 kilograms.
Akita Bear said that you should make a funny comment reaction to one of the Ice Age movies.
Um, yeah,
But you can't
that's
do that on the main. You'd have to do that on a private thing like Patreon or something.
hmm. Well, yeah, definitely considering, Sid is a very highly evolved sloth because he's walking consistently upright. In fact, practically all sloths had to walk on all fours. Let's see. Oh, well, yeah, when coming to the or looking at the dire wolf, it did coexist later on in its evolution with the gray wolf. But the interesting thing is when it comes to the dire wolf, it doesn't seem to have existed for very long. Okay, so here we have what is possibly Megalonyx, which is a species of ground sloth from the Ice Age of the United States. We have found different specimens of Megalonyx over in different areas of Utah and Arizona. So this animal also would have inhabited in caves. I don't believe, though, there is evidence, at least at the moment, for them creating fire. But besides that, they were likely not coming into contact with different glaciers much further north, even in the colder periods of the Pleistocene. Um, I will say were probably at certain points, not necessarily, um, well, you could say saber-toothed squirrels to an extent, but just simply squirrels with extremely long incisors, probably overgrown incisors, because you have many instances of these sort of events occurring with different species of squirrels today. But it's just specifically when it comes to this animal, um, we don't yet have evidence of Scratch existing, but he's still one of the best characters to evolve, at least in this franchise. And also, when it comes to squirrels in general, I mean, they are omnivorous. So it is a bit odd that we haven't observed this animal going after anything but acorns, considering they only eat acorns at a certain part of the year, really the fall. Actually, I didn't notice that they gave him quite short molars, almost like people, and very small incisors. Okay. Um, yeah, this guy probably likes munching on fruit when he's offset. Yeah, also when it
Are
comes
those
to
eggs?
yeah, I think it's from Ice Age 3. Well, yeah, I mean, mentioning the dinosaur eggs, the largest dinosaur egg we have ever discovered is about the size of a football, and specifically like an American type football. Um, but when it comes to sloths in general, like especially megalonyx, the animal was pushing probably around 800 pounds to maybe about 2,000 pounds, or somewhere between 380 kilograms to maybe 950 kilograms. Okay. So, thanks for joining. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guide Live Daily News. Happy International Ice Age Day. And remember that nothing is better than all animals all the time.